It's me at a birthday party. My mouth got me in a lot of trouble in the Navy. I got kicked out of Spain.
Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. I was an ombudsman, which is like a liaison, and there had been a lot of trouble in the community lately, and I made the mistake, I guess, of telling the XO, which is the second in command, that the command that they're in charge of is nothing but a lie and bullshit, and just basically everybody having sex with everybody and not giving rat's ass about their spouses and their family. Yet that didn't go over too well. My husband at the time was told he either control me or we're gone. Well, he knew he couldn't control me, so we were told we were going to leave. Yeah, it doesn't work that fast. It took him probably about 6 months to get the paperwork done for us to actually get kicked out. Life is good sometimes. I enjoyed myself. They needed to know that not everybody was blind to it, is what it is.
It's good to speak your mind.
Yeah.
No, it's good to speak your mind.
I did that quite a few times. My son, I went to pick up my daughter. She was staying with a friend of mine while I went to pick my son up from preschool. I left him in his car seat, strapped in. While I ran in the house to grab her, he climbed out of his car seat, kicked the car into drive as he crawled into the front seat, and I watched the car going down the hill and crashed into another car. If it hadn't crashed into the other car, it would have went over a 3-foot embankment. So, called my husband. He couldn't leave or didn't want to leave work. I took him to the hospital. Came home from the hospital. He was fine. Next thing I know, I have the commander of the base, the commander of the ship, the commander of security, and somebody else in my house telling me, you're a bad parent, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, look, I'm not the person you need to be talking to. You don't talk to me that way. This is my house under military rule. You need to talk to my spouse. He's the one that's in charge of me. Get out. You don't know the story. You didn't investigate. It's hearsay. Get out. I even have the chief where my daughter was at saying that I was not in the wrong. Get out. They all left, and that was the end of the situation. And I shook for about 5 minutes after I did that, because I just told people that could seriously get my husband in trouble to get the hell out of my house. Nothing was said.
Was this all while you were still living in Spain?
This was in Scotland. My Christopher was 4 years old, 5 years old. Between 4
It's okay.
between 4 and 5. So the kids, this was back in 89, so this was a long time ago. Yeah, I've had different reoccurrences of telling commanders that they're wrong. I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 incidences where I've told different commanders that you're full of bullshit.
Did positive things come from it? Any change?
Once. Well, you can't change a Marine's mind because they don't have one, my opinion. And when you when you tell the XO that he's wrong, it's not going to go anywhere until you go to the commander and he knows you're right, then the XO gets in trouble, which is exactly what happened. This was in Scotland once again. Go figure. They sent the kids' dad over here for Sailor of the Year competition. They didn't send his paperwork. They gave him 24 hours notice. Actually, it was less than 24 hours notice because he had to work all day and then he could come home, and that's when they told him. So the banks were closed. The ATMs we couldn't get to because they were at the exchange. At that time, banks didn't have ATMs outside. So there was no way for him to get money. The stuff he needed from the exchange to finish his uniform or make it better, we couldn't buy. So he went over there without the stuff he needed, without any money, which he could get money when he got over there. And his paperwork wasn't there. I was livid. So now you're sending a man for three days to a week back to the United States unprepared. He's supposed to be proud of himself, supposed to be proud of his command, and he can't do any of it. So I called the XO and chewed him a new asshole for doing that. Nothing happened, so I called the CO and didn't chew him an asshole, but I let him know vehemently that I was not a happy camper. The XO got his butt chewed, from what I understand, and he left rather abruptly from Scotland. Fast forward, I don't know, maybe 3 months later, I was at a wives club meeting, and the CO was there and thanked me for letting him know what was going on and how bad it was. Just my job as a wife to watch over my husband. But okay, it's the first time my ass didn't get in trouble. So yeah, I guess I've spoken my mind more than I probably should have. But that's me. Living around sailors, you either speak your mind, learn how to be sarcastic, or you get walked over. They're a hard bunch.
What was it like living on a military base?
It was a tight community. We knew, or we had more feeling of safety for our kids than if we had to live out in town. Sometimes your military housing wasn't actually on the base because there really was no base. It was, this is the base and it's just like a strip mall and it's got all of the stuff you need in it, but that's it. That's the base and the ship is the base. And the military or the government bought out apartment complexes or rented apartment complexes for you to live in. But you still had the tightness of that complex. Like in Italy, it was a tight-knit complex. We all knew each other. We all had, Halloween parties for the kids together, or we did Christmas caroling with the kids up and down the stairwells. You did stuff together as a group. The kids enjoyed it because there were always kids around. You lived on base, there was kids everywhere, so they enjoyed that part. They went to DOD schools, which were, close by, and they got a decent education, but they were able to do things that kids in the United States can't do. My son went to Pompeii, he went to Auschwitz, he went, he was supposed to go where you go down a cliff with a rope. What's that called? Oh, shit.
Like rock climbing?
Yeah, but when you just go down, you just roll down the rope, like you're jumping down. Oh, I can't think of the words. But he was supposed to be able to do that, and he was terrified. Luckily, it rained that day, so he didn't have to do it. But they did extreme biking while they went to Germany for a trip. My daughter got to go to the zoo in Italy, which is a huge zoo. We got to go see, like, in Scotland, they had a big natural reserve full of butterflies and different birds and stuff, and then they had a creek that actually ran down into the mountain. It was called Puck's Glen, And I take the kids down there all the time to walk along the creek and climb the rocks and the moss. And so there was things they got to do that we wouldn't have been able to do here. Plus, when we lived in Italy, whenever their dad left on the ship, I packed up the kids and we went to the Czech Republic, we went to Austria, they were in Belgium, we went to Portugal while we were in Spain to the World's Fair. Just different things we wouldn't be able to do if we just lived here.
Yeah.
I mean, we came back, we lived in Virginia and we lived in Maryland, and then we lived again in Michigan. So they still knew what it was like to live in the United States. But on the flip side, because they were so exposed to the European culture, they weren't as inhibited as the Americans are. They weren't as conservative. They weren't as paranoid. Yeah, it's my body. So what? If I want to walk around in just my underwear, it's my backyard. If I want to go to the beach and be naked, it's a body. We all look the same. So they had to learn that no, you can't do that here. Here, you have to be more conservative, and it was hard for them to understand that, well, why isn't it like it is over there? It's just not. To explain it, it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
I can't even figure it out. So we'd go to the beach in Italy, and there'd be women sitting there topless, or men walking around in Speedos that have a beer gut bigger than a keg of beer. So it was something they just got used to. Little kids ran around naked on the beach. Nobody cared. In Spain, we lived on base, and they could do whatever they wanted as long as we knew where they were. You want to go play up at the school? All right, here's your rules. Not that they always followed them, but here's your rules. They were kids. So they enjoyed it, but like me, they miss not having aunts and uncles around. And you don't realize that until afterwards. Even though they were really, really close with a lot of the families, and they knew and felt they could go to them, they still missed the grandma and grandpa and all that kind of stuff. And coming back and being adults, trying to figure out why I have to be so conservative was hard for them.
Yeah.
That's something you'd have to ask them how they dealt with. My daughter's a rebel. I don't know where she gets it from. My son I made the mistake of letting him have a voice when he was younger, so he knows everything and is going to tell you. I don't know where he gets that either. So, I mean, they turned out to be decent adults.
Yeah. That's all that matters.
I did something right somewhere.
Well, thank you for talking with me.
Yeah, I hope it gave you what you wanted.
It did. Thank you.
No problem.
Leo.